All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bleav in Eagles 4-0. We go to L.A. The Eagles will take on the L.A. Rams. We're going to take a quick look back at the Eagles' 34-31 win over the Washington Commanders. I'm Mike Gill. Don't forget, like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you may be watching or listening. And this week, the guest on Bleav in Eagles, if you are in the Philly market, you know my man Brodes from BrodesMedia, and he is with me to dissect the 4-0 Eagles as we get ready for the Rams. Brodes, my brother, what's up?
What's up, dude? I'm pumped. Look, I'll be honest with you. I woke up this morning in a little Red October vibe, so I had to refresh my memory with what the hell happened on Sunday. But I love the 1 o'clock, by the way. That's when football needs to be played for me. And I'm excited to see this team take another step. They don't lose. They don't lose.
They don't lose, but some people love to complain about winning 4-0. But there's so many things to kind of dive into. I want to take a quick look back at the game last week against the Washington Commanders, 34-31. At any point of that game, did you say they're going to lose this game?
No, I don't believe in losing when it comes to this football team. They just find ways. It might not be the way we love it, all right? There might be some soft coverage, but you're also working with James Bradberry playing in the slot, someone like Josh Jobe, you're down safeties. There's no Evans. There's so much going on here. Sean Desai, who's very new at this is his first year here. He's working through all that. So I just figured at some point you'd get the plays that needed to be made, whoever it was. I don't know if it's Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, who looks like he's 21 and in his prime again. I don't know who it was going to be, but at some point that play would have been made because that's the DNA of this football squad.
It would have been Nick Morrow. You left him out. 3 sacks in the game.
I'm an idiot.
How do you forget Nick Morrow? By the way, the Nick Morrow game, where were you? 3 sacks, 11 tackles, and a forced fumble. He is the only Eagles player ever in history to get 10 or more tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble in the same game.
What a story. Now, I don't want to be all hot takey here, but what do you do with N'Kobe Dean? Because Cunningham makes some plays too, so now you got 2 guys out there that are doing well.
This is a linebacker factory. Linebacker factory, like the quarterback factory.
Oh, that's
Jay
incredible.
Edwards, White making plays in Arizona, and now what you got going on here. Let's start on that defensive side of the ball. We'll stay over there because I really thought the difference in that game against Washington would be your interior front against their interior front, and we know Washington's a little weaker on the inside, yet you didn't get the impact and the sacks that I thought they were going to get in the game against Washington. But Washington, I thought, had a really good game plan. But I give Sean Desai credit. I know people are like, what the heck is this guy doing? And 31 points. But I give Washington credit. They stuck with the game plan, and they executed well. The Eagles' defense is all predicated, Brodes, you know this, on long drives. And on long drives, you're either going to make a mistake, offsides, fumble, interception, some sort of penalty to where you're going to end up kicking a field goal. And they want to give up yards, but only 3. I give Washington credit because they went on long drives, made no mistakes, and got 6 instead of 3.
And I didn't expect that with the way Hal played the week before. It was interception for everybody. Oprah's out here throwing them around town. So for him to not do that, he made some very impressive throws. But you're right. They want to limit the explosive plays. And I thought the Eagles did a great job. When you need to, here's Reed Blankenship's forearm, okay? And I thought they made the correct call on that. And I even loved his tackle the down before, which was massive, to even put them in that position. But you're right. I give Sean Desai a lot of credit, too. Both coordinators were working through the kinks, but for a team, even working through a lot of injuries, which they did not really have to deal with last year. You had all those healthy starters at the end, which made no sense. You thought at some point it would even out to more of the mean, and I think we're experiencing that now as they pick up another slot corner, which I think is a good move to get Bradberry back to the outside. But this team, all they do while figuring out these kinks and dealing with the injuries is win football games. It really is amazing. And I don't want to simplify it to that level, but I wasn't the biggest fan. And at the time we worked together of drafting Jalen Hurts. I didn't see a reason behind it. You just give Carson Wentz all that money. But the people who did start cheering for Jalen earlier than I did. What did they talk about? They mentioned one thing, that this guy's just a winner. The way he leads is very toxic. Like you reach into it and it brings the locker room together. You have Jason Kelsey, a vet who wants to retire so badly, but sees how special Jalen Hurts is. He's like, I can't quit. I got to play with this kid because we can go win a championship. All they do is win. All they do is win with this kid because of the way he leads, and it stems from the QB. I know you want defense, but it stems from the leadership of the QB.
Well, no, because I said on my show on the radio, Brodes, I said, look, I would rather the 34-31 bloody fist fight down to the wire overtime win against a Washington team than a 40-0 win like Dallas got, or a impressive, because you get false hope of who you are, and then when adversity strikes, you have nothing to kind of go in the bag. And I think that's why Dallas loses a game against Arizona. Philly doesn't lose a game against Arizona. It might be ugly, but they find a way to pull it out. It's mental toughness that is the difference between what I think is maybe a more talented Dallas team, but the mental toughness of Philadelphia is why they're 4-0 and Dallas is 3-1. You might say, well, what's the difference? It's one game. That one game was the difference last year in the division, and it could be again. If you look back and say, we lost the division on a tiebreaker because we lost a freaking Arizona. Are you kidding me? But that's where the mental toughness of being able to get into a fist fight is the difference between Philly and Dallas. Because I think Dallas is probably the better 53.
It's possible. I don't know. Maybe they're neck and neck, but you're right. That one game.
Listen, I said last year, Philly had the better 53. This was in training camp, mind you. Dallas had the better, Philly had the better 53, but Dallas had the better quarterback. We thought Dak was better than Jalen entering the year, did we not?
Yes.
And that Dallas had the better quarterback, and they had Micah Parsons. So those two, I thought Philly had the better 53, but Dallas had the two more important players. This year, I think Dallas maybe has the better 53, but I think Philly has Hurts, and there's your difference. The mental fortitude that Philly shows in those games, and Dallas doesn't.
In the more important positions, I do give I don't know, man, Parsons compared to Jalen Carter. I guess that could be a flip-flop because of the way they play different positions, of course, but the versatility in Micah Parsons is outrageous. But your point, go ahead.
Brodes, you can make a strong argument that Hassan Reddick was every bit as good.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And it took him a couple weeks last year to pop off, and now he finally got the cast off, and look at him. He gets on the stat sheet. So you're absolutely right. And yeah, I'm with you 100% on the way this team wins stylistically. They grind and they battle and they're in the mix of it. And in years past, under Doug Peterson, you lose that game in overtime, right? They don't know yet how to fully come together. And now every single time they're in that position, every time, not once in a blue moon, every time they're in that position, they find a way to win the football game. Now I want to ask you, and I'll ask you on your show. I'm going interviewer here. Were you okay with the touchdown? Now, I was okay with the touchdown late, even with where the clock is, because you put them in a position where they need 17 yards. 17 yards. Make the stop. I'm just begging you to make the stop. 17 yards. If you could score a touchdown when there's 1:30 left with one timeout, if it's Pat Mahomes, fine. Milk the clock and kick it. If it's Aaron Rodgers, milk the clock and kick it. Against Ron Rivera, who's a loser, by the way, who didn't go for two. And how? I'm okay with scoring 7.
I love the question in the conversation because there's 1:40 plus still on the clock, and you're saying you want them to basically run that clock out. But to me, in that particular game, like the Tampa game, you ran it out. You took their will. Would you have liked to have seen them? That's what with 8 minutes left, I said, let's just take this team's will, run it down their throat, and run this game out. But that wasn't the style they had in the game. So that's why in this particular game, I like the fact that they scored the touchdown there, and it goes back to what I said before. With 1:48, now if Brown doesn't get that ticky-tack penalty, I think we're having a different conversation here. That 15 yards ended up being a big difference in the whole drive because – you score that touchdown, 1:48, you kick it, they got the ball to 25. They got to go essentially on what I said before, another 10-play drive without making a mistake. And you would think somewhere in there they would either make the mistake or run out of time. That's what happened in Minnesota. They went on a 9-play drive. They finally scored a touchdown, but by the time they scored, they ran out of time. So I think that's what the plan was, hey, they're going to have to go on another 9, 10, 75-play yard drive to beat us, and then he gets that penalty.
And another takeaway from this game that we haven't seen, this was the best Jalen Hurts look. He made some really impressive throws.
Right. Let me ask you about that, because you're right. He if you looked at that game and said last year in week 2, man, Hurts looks like he's really coming around. But because of what he did last year, we almost look at this game and say, I want more.
Well, you know what it is? I think it's Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts right now are figuring some things out, right? It's not perfect yet. And the run game, Jalen hasn't been going in the run game yet, and that was awesome for him to plant his foot. The one time he planted his foot this year, he gets popped and the ball gets loose. We never saw that last season. So I think you're right. The expectation is so high, and we look at him as a top 3 quarterback. We want Josh Allen. But the thing is, Josh Allen even had a week 1 that was a little iffy. That's going to happen even with the greatness of some of these quarterbacks. You have some games where it's not your smoothest, but overall, the full body of work will tell the story, and I think we're going to get that over the rest of the way with Jalen. But some of those throws, man, right where only Dallas Goedert can get it, and A.J. Brown down the sidelines in stride. There was another one that I'm missing, too. Oh, Zacchaeus. Yeah, Zacchaeus. I mean, these are perfect elite NFL throws, and it was beautiful.
He has made so many great throws and plays, yet some curious decisions that we didn't see much of last year. The one where he's rolling out of the pocket and he's kind of telling Brown, go, and he throws it up, and you're thinking it's going to be a one-on-one where Brown's got position, and he throws it to 2 guys, and Brown's like playing defensive back. You're like, what was that? He's done that a couple times. You know, he certainly, I don't know. What do you think? He seems a heck of a lot less interested in running or making guys miss, or you used to see the little stutter step or the little wiggle, lowering the shoulder. He seems like very content on just getting down and living to play another play. Smart or frustrating?
It's a little bit of both, because it is smart, considering one of the things I wanted to see this year from him is make it the whole way. And I know that's very hard to do, but last year you go through the Gardner Minshew experience. You have to win the final game. You get the luxury of the Giants, who suck, by the way. I know you enjoy that. If they didn't, they didn't need the game. So it was nice for that. At the same time, they would have destroyed them anyway. But I wanted to see him stay upright. So it's good in that sense. I wonder, okay, they're one of the most explosive offenses last year, right? This is a copycat league. So how many teams went back to the tape and studied what they did, not only just to study the Eagles, but what can we do to incorporate certain things in ours? The tendencies, maybe it's more out there, and now it's on Brian Johnson, who's a first-time coordinator, adjusting to all of the additions that people made to their roster, knowing that this is what the Eagles do. And you face Bill Belichick on the road, Brian Flores, and Todd Bowles. 3 pretty impressive defensive minds. I just wonder if it's a collective group of all of that that's making it look out of whack with his legs. And, you know, teams are saying, okay, we don't want Jalen Hurts to have the keeper. We'll put it in someone else's hands. Here's DeAndre Swift for 170, 130. It's not that easy with this O-line. But I wonder if that's what's happening.
Well, that, and, you know, I think they certainly have minimized. I don't know, you know, I had Colin Thompson, for those of you watching, he's a friend of our show, played in the NFL with Carolina and was in camp with the Vikings. And we do a segment on the radio every Tuesday where he watches the film. And I asked him flat out, hey, when you're in a room, those coaches, are they pounding into your head? Don't take hits. Don't take hits. Don't take hits. To the point where you hear that voice in your head that maybe you didn't hear when you were younger or when you were playing for $578,000, and now you're playing for Brodes money, right? And it's like, you can't take that hit. And he keeps hearing it. And Colin's like, yes, they will pound that into your head to make sure you're not taking unnecessary hits. So you wonder if, hey, that 2nd down and 11 where he got that run and he kind of wiggled his way and high stepped it, you know, went into neutral and shifted it into another gear and got that first down, he might take second down and just get 4 yards instead of getting the 11 and playing for 3rd and 7 instead.
Yeah, but he's never been the quarterback to take the unnecessary shot. Daniel Jones, for example, he just plays with his head down. He'll dive forward. He'll get rocked. You can see his body almost, his head decapitate. Like, Hurts was never like that. So, I don't know.
Dross out there.
Oh, dude. No. RJ Umberger, the poor guy. Hey, you want to go fly? Do you do the Bleav in Flyers pod? I'd be happy to join.
I am not on that one, but I think I could probably set. I don't know if they have a Bleav in Flyers quite yet, but we're all ready to go for that one.
That's right.
By the way, where were the poor Flyers guys sitting? They put them in the 400 level.
I know. And if I'm Torts, guess what? Get on the line. All right, this is camp. You're out here boozing. Get on the line.
Had a beer.
Yeah.
All right. So let's this team's 4-0, but for you, are there areas for improvement? Or are you just saying, no, it's the journey. They're on the journey. Or do you look at legitimate things and say, they got to improve on X, Y, Z?
There's legitimate things, but I have so much faith that the X, Y, and Z gets cleaned up that I'm not concerned with it. But yeah, I mean, look, you do have to. The penalties last week was a problem. No, some of them sucked. I don't think Darius Slay should have been called. I don't think Bradbury should have been called. A couple Edmonds plays shouldn't have been called. So, I think your defensive front is so mean and so intense. Jordan Davis might be just as good as Jalen Carter. I mean, seriously, I never thought that could be the case. Now, I think Carter's a step up. I'm just being a little bit knee-jerk. I'm excited about Jordan Davis, but you get my point. He's definitely really impressive. He even gets sacks now. It's crazy. Your defensive front can be a little bit of a nice spot to hold your hat on that gives you some flexibility in the secondary to get by with somebody opposite of Reed Blankenship. And Reed could play. Sidney Brown could play. But, I think the other areas of the defense, maybe you could live a little bit longer with some of these guys because of your defensive front. But yeah, there's some things you could be better at. The passing game finally got going. AJ Brown, $175 and all. And Dallas Goedert, let's get Dallas Goedert going more than just screens. Sometimes the screens piss me off a little bit. But the biggest thing I think is Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts, just getting the feel and flow. Shane Steichen did an amazing job. Them two together would be the number one on my list.
All right. So we talked about this on my show Monday. The team's really good, but they're different. How are they different?
That's a good question.
Topics on this show.
Yeah. No,
it's fluff, man. This isn't fluff.
No. This is good stuff.
They're really good. This is really 4-0. They're really good, but they're different from the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. How and where are they different?
It's weirdly enough because a lot of the guys are the same, but it's just the personality of, last year they were coming off of a season where good for Nick Sirianni and Jalen to make the postseason, but you go to Tampa Bay and get annihilated by Todd Bowles, who dared you to throw the ball left and force Jalen Hurts out of the pocket. So the expectations were different. I think the difference is the personality of the approach, and it's the way of, okay, we lost in the Super Bowl. It's the way that they're approaching the rebound of losing in the Super Bowl. And I think that's it. I don't know how to put my fingers on that. I don't even know how to really describe it. So whatever that is, that's how I think it's different. It's a different start to the season because it's a different starting point on the timeline. And that's why it's different for me. That's how I see it. Does that make sense, or is that ridiculous?
Well, you said something that really rings in sports. The Giants right now are getting kind of blasted because they made the playoffs last year, and people say that was the worst thing. Now you're fool's gold. And this is where I sometimes disagree. If you're run properly, the Eagles made the playoffs 2 years ago. They had no business being a playoff team. So people would say, I don't want to make the playoffs because I don't want you to have false hope of who you are. No, the Eagles got their ass kicked and got a great reality check of who they were and how far they were. That playoff berth, to me, was the first. Remember Nick Sirianni with the seeds and planting the flowers? That playoff loss was the first seed planted of where this team saw themselves and how far they thought they were. The Giants' problem was They're not run well enough to understand that they had fool's gold in that win. When they got their ass kicked by the Eagles, they should have said, we are leaps and bounds from where that team was. And that's why the Eagles are who they are, and the stinking loser Giants are who they are, because they're run poorly. And that's why the Eagles, to me, learned from that loss. And they're learning in all these games. Hey, they're different. And we're just trying to find our way where we're different. But in the end, we know we can always lean on where the similarities are: coach and quarterback.
So the answer is information and knowledge. How are they different? They have more information and knowledge on who they are and how to win in this league. And kudos to Sirianni. Now, what did you make? Here, I'll throw another question your way. I guess there's a little debate going on based off of some of post-game comments and how Nick Sirianni handled it. Do you think he's calling plays? Do you think he's just trying to support Brian Johnson and say, like, hey, that's on me, and being a leader, even though he maybe disagreed with that 3rd and 11 to Kenneth Gainwell?
He has hinted at the past that, like, even with John Gannon, like, baseball said, like, he plays the kind of he calls the defense that I want. Like, I hire a guy because that's the style of defense that I want to play.
Everyone runs it now, which pisses me off.
Right. Well, that's what I said. You don't dislike John Gannon. You don't like the style of the league.
Right, I agree completely. But real quick, I do think Gannon has a Kapler thing where, like, Kapler was just doing what was told to him, but I can't stand looking at his face.
Well, yeah, there's guys that are unlikable to look at, or their presentation is an unlikable, they come off unlikable. I get that. Like, I don't look at John Gannon and say, man, what a cool guy, man. He was a little bit, I don't know. I mean, quirky? Yeah, he just he's working. I mean, that team has no business competing out there, by the way. And look, I was not a John Gannon hater. Do I say, man, great personality guy I want to run through the wall for? Not necessarily. But Sirianni has always been transparent of that's the style. He plays the style of defense that I'm telling him. Basically, I'm hiring a guy because that's what I want. Now, him calling the plays or not, I don't know, man. Does he seem like the kind of guy on game day that's ripping the pad out of your hand and saying, I'm taking over?
No, I saw Brian Dable throw an iPad, but no, I don't think that Nick Sirianni's doing that. Yeah. Poor Brian Dable. I know. I think he's a good coach, but, man, he's dealing with that offensive line is atrocious.
Same problem every team in this league has. We're going to see it as a great way to seg to this week. The Rams, Puka, Tutu, Cooper, cute team, right? Stafford, they got a good quarterback. Their line's terrible, and there's your problem. I mean, they're fantasy stars, but they can't block. It's the same as the Minnesota Vikings. You can name their stars, but they can't block, and I think that's where the Eagles get you. But this week's going to be interesting. If Cooper Kupp is back, who's going to play the slot this week if Bradley Roby's not ready to go? I think that's an interesting matchup. And then you got, Puka goes all over the place. Who's going to match up there if Roby's not ready? And you got to play Bradbury in the slot again. And I think that's a whole interesting dynamic this week.
It is.
The other factor here, they're going to put Donald, I would imagine, sit him right over Suopeta.
Hey, you know what I said? There were some, I don't know how big you are on the whole Pro Football Focus. I'm pretty sure I saw that Opeta did pretty well in the pass blocking.
He did. He had a good game. When he came in, he did a solid job. But for a full week now, when he's in there and you're going up against Aaron Donald, different story.
Yeah, for sure. Look, if Roby can't go, I think it's a Bradbury in the slot and a Josh Jobe who can hold the fort down on the outside. There's times where he gets targeted, but for the most part, a lot of these guys, every time he needs someone random to step in, they've done okay. They've done pretty decent. So all things considered, that's probably what I would do. But yeah, it's a fascinating matchup. But once again, the way that this team handles their business, maybe another year I'd be worried, but this year I ain't worried. And the Rams, cute story. It's a different world when Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles are the ones that you're facing up against. So go ahead.
Well, so this team, you're like a 5.5-point favorite in this game. This Rams team is better than they were last year. I think they had a lot of injury problems last year. I thought they should be a team that could bounce back, similar to the Eagles, where they had just had so many injury issues from one year, and then the next they're healthy, and it's like, okay, we're healthy now. If the Eagles went out there and lost to this Rams team, would we start to look back, or would we look back and say, oh man, that's a game you shouldn't lose. Or you say, look, you're going to stub your toe throughout the course of a year. The problem is, you know what the schedule looks like coming up. You can't stub your toe in a game like this if, big picture, you want to be the number 1 seed with San Francisco breathing fire down your neck.
I'd say it's a stub the toe. And the reason is because even though there is a gauntlet coming up, when you're a magnificent team, you win those games, right? You know, we go win, loss, win, loss. Well, guess what? When the Bills or anyone else sees Philadelphia, they go, ooh, I don't know. That could be a loss. Like, that's how they view us. So one of the teams is going to win. I think through that gauntlet, we can't just write in L's because your team is damn good and they're going to win. So I know this isn't a great answer, but whenever a stub your toe type of loss happens, for me, it's always about what happens the next week. So for Dallas's case, you lose to Arizona. And we already talked about maybe it does bite them in the rear end. But for them to have the type of win they had the following week, okay, that tells me more. That gives me more information on who they are. If they were to lose against the Rams, well, if you win the next 2, and then you're sitting there at 5-1, well, it's a stub the toe.
Yeah, well, you're hoping. I think in the end, that Arizona loss might be the one that stands out for them that you're like, are you kidding me? If you're a Dallas fan, you're thinking, hey, we're 13-3 going into the final week, and the tiebreaker is we lost to Arizona. I think that Arizona game will play for them, only because I think Philly, Dallas, and San Francisco, I don't know, who's your 4th in the NFC?
Say that again? Who'd you say?
You got Philly, Dallas, San Francisco, however you rank those.
Lions.
You go. Lions. You like the Lions. Okay.
They're fun. They're fun. I mean, seriously, they are a fun football team. Yeah, I'd say Lions. I don't think they're in the same category as the ones you mentioned, but they're right there. They're that next team that's kind of flirting around with it.
Yeah, I do my who's in, who's out. I cannot find a 7th playoff team in the NFC. To me, it's Philly, Detroit, San Francisco. The South winner is Tampa, Atlanta. They're all 2-2. Or Tampa's 3-1. Everybody else is 2-2. So they're
Could it be Washington?
I had Washington. I've had Atlanta, Tampa. To me, it's those 4. The South winner: San Francisco, Detroit, Philly, Dallas, Seattle, and then the next team. The 7th team is I have no clue.
Yeah, it's fascinating though. This is fun, man. I miss talking it up a little birds with you.
Oh, we chop it right back up like we never got off the bike.
I know.
Brodes Media, tell the people where they can find you, man.
Yeah, Brodes Media on YouTube, Brodes81 on Twitter. That's really the bread and butter. TikTok, if you're into the TikTok world, a little Brodes Media action. We have a lot of fun. Are you TikToking yourself, or do you have a team of people TikToking for you? Yeah, I can't do that. I have a team that helps cut up the podcast and throw it on the TikTok. My days are jam packed. My wife would kill me if I spent more hours down here in the studio.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to, Bill, I'm here in the radio studio right now today. All right. Don't forget, like, rate, review, subscribe to Bleav in Eagles. Eagles, Rams. How you feeling?
I see a W. Nice and easy. What's next? What do you got?
Nice.
You got anything else for me?
Nice and easy.
You got anything else for me?
Sunday driver?
You're damn right. What else you got?
That's it, man. That's it. That's a wrap. We like to keep it quick and easy here on the Bleav in Eagles show. Brodes Media, thanks for doing this, man. We'll have to do it again. It was like riding a bike. We just started going and cranked us up and bang. We banged out a bunch of stuff in a cute little half an hour right there.
You're damn right.
I'm your host, Mike Gill. This is Bleav in Eagles. Have a great one, everybody. By the way, I got to make my pick. I got Eagles winning the game 31-17.
I love it.
31-17. Have a great week, everybody.